and this is for concepts, and keep in mind again, and feel free to interject, because essentially we're making issue on why you nationalize, but it must become yours. It can't be because we're trying to convince you of anything. We're giving you facts, and if you can't figure it out with this, then it's a lost cause. Meanwhile, the world is not going to sit around waiting for us either, because while they're asleep, they're going to try to kill them off because they're the real predator. You see the point? Because they're the heirs to the estate. And if they want to be black, they want to help them stay black. And they're going to make them disappear, too. That's what King Alfred Rex 84 is really about. The extermination.
So when we see Mike Browns and Eric Garner's, that's King Alfred.
You got that correct. Now, just as an interim, let's just go here as an example. As an example, and let's also show what everybody else in the world knows, except our people. We don't even want to read all of it. Just start from here. Read, just anybody get grab the mic. Start. Go ahead.
Turn the mic on.
Just start from the top. What's even there?
Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1787 and 18, is that saying 86 or 36?
1836.
1836, Constitution for the United States of North America. Sources of their actual, anciently adopted philosophies that pre-established ancient Gnosticism was the intellectual motivation behind their major speeches, statements, associations, and actions. The majority of the European males mentioned in early United States history and many of the less recognized others, meaning at Pennsylvania House, Independence Hall, were Masons,
Oft referred to as Freemasons. These are the names of, and a small example and number of, just some of the well-known men who were members and operative officials of the various Masonic lodges functioning in early United States history at North America. You won't read.
Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Lafayette, George Washington, and at least 12 of his generals, John Hancock, James Monroe, Arthur Sinclair.
Now, we're going to skip that and then bring you to some more history, facts. Now, start there.
These true political facts become even more evident with the exposure of some of George Washington's correspondence mailed or delivered to the Sultan of Morocco. Know that the politicians, historians, sociologists, thank you, are well aware of this suppressed history, and that the general public has been, by political policies, deliberately denied open access to it. This is due to institutionalized black codes, noir, social control. Consider that many social, economic, and political motives and nuances are and have been determined by those who have this knowledge. The names and dates of government service tenured by the early President of the United States Republic are the following. John Hanson, a man of Moorish descent, was the first president for the United States of North America after adopting of a Republican form of government under the jurisdiction of what was originally called the Congress of the Confederation, operated and administered.
Over
the United States from March 1st, 1781 AD until March 4th, 1789 AD. Richard Henry Lee.
Number two.
Number three, Elias Buno. Number 4, Thomas Mifflin. Number 5, John Hancock. Number 6, Nathaniel Gorham. Number 7, Arthur St. Clair. Number 8, Cyrus Griffin.
Correct.
Chronological notice must be taken into account when reviewing the timeline of the Republic's president and their administration. Consider the irrefutable fact that George Washington was appointed to the presidential palace on day 30 of April 1789 AD. All of the aforementioned executive officers preceded George Washington, who was also raised a master mason. Many preserved pieces of the original artifacts, symbolic tools, Masonic regalia, and furniture, etc., used during that Masonic raising ceremony are presently preserved in the George Washington Masonic Museum, which is located at Alexandria, Virginia, Commonwealth.
Now, it can be viewed today. People come from all around the world on tours to the Masonic Museum, looking at it, and our people, with all of their spirituality and metaphysical knowledge, still think that George Washington was the first president because they were told that, and the rest of the world knows he was the ninth. Which means all that current history is being suppressed from these people who think that human beings are clayons, not knowing that this is their escape. So again, we're presenting this to you informationally to reaffirm to you what everybody knows that we don't know about basic grade school civics, and we always talk about salvation and stuff, don't even know what's going on, and wonder why we continue to get played, and wonder why the rest of the world don't like black people. Who swear they're so spiritual and they don't even know what the hell's in front of them. And we're arrogant with our ignorance. And they're always demanding that somebody, how come people don't talk to black people the truth? Because they're full of shit and they want to deal with truth. And as soon as you give them the truth, they start talking about what their religions and their beliefs are that the Europeans gave them, and talking about, well, you don't know Jesusness. My guy's better than yours, and they start that stupid crap. And logically, the civilized world is not going to sit around and debate with us. They're just going to get a thick piece of plexiglass, come in the community, and get wealthy off our birthright while we sit around and talk about our idol gods that we don't know as idol gods. And ignorant and arrogant with it, and hostile when people challenge us, and judgmental because they're going to hellfire. They have no Lord of Jesus, and they didn't give Reverend Jones $5 for Jesus' half, and all that stuff. They do. We have no idea how the rest of the world looks at us in our extreme ignorance because our people don't know that they're extremely ignorant. They think that their beliefs is special, personal relationship with God and type of stuff, and nobody else got God but us. Babies are dying younger and younger. Families is falling apart. There's no solid, sound personal relationships. They have very few, if any, sound businesses, and they keep lying to their children how saved they are. And they fund all of these spy centers in all these poor communities and lie and say they're Jesus' houses when they belong to Constantine. And the world knows that. So you got to understand that the world looks at us as traitors and hypocrites. And our people really need to know that that's how the world really sees us. But we're so, steeped in our self-pity of victimization of racism, human species, and you know what that is, that we ain't even paying attention that the world sees us as being full of crap, and most of our suffering is from our own making and our own prejudices that we've charged on everybody else. And the rest of the world already knows this information, so they already know it's almost futile to have this kind of conversation with our people. Because the first thing they'll start saying, you need to take your children and go play on I-95 because you don't know the Lord is. You ain't saved, you ain't prayed, and all that stuff. They worship him constantly. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This is reality. Now, of course, when you know these things, you understand that they're living off your birthright, and so you know that for you, me, we, anybody to begin to restore the estate, that you must be in your proper person because you have no claim of the state outside of that. And so, continue and go ahead and read this, and you're going to read both that and the letter, and then we're going to just talk. If you want to read something, you can. Go ahead, sis.
My glasses.
What do you mean? Really? 125.
It's cutting off. I'll read it though.
Go ahead. Straight up. Come on, brother. Come on, babies.
Yes.
Ain't seen y'all in a minute.
No, not that.
What's up, little brother? That's not good, brother. Boy, ain't seen them over. You know?
We were 6.
You were 6?
Now me.
You're 6 now? Amazing sister.
How many?
You're 8 now? Oh, you were 6 before, right?
Yeah.
Dear great and magnanimous friend, since the date of the letter which the late Congress by their president...
note the date of the letter.
Oh, yes. City of New York, December 1st, 1789. Right. Yeah.
And also recognize, as we went over the preceding presidents, the charter was set forth in 81. And the scholars conveniently ignore it like it doesn't even exist so that they can make the reconstructed history and claim that he was the first president, which is a blatant lie. We'll continue. Okay,
no problem. Great and magnanimous friend, since the date of the letter which the late Congress by their president addressed to your imperial majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one, agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy. The time necessarily employed in the arduous task and the disarrangements occasioned by so great, though peaceable, a revolution, will apologize and account for your majesty's not having received those regularly advised marks of attention from the United States which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct toward them afforded reason to expect. Now right there, they're telling you about the fact that they owed tribute payments to the Moors. Because for hundreds of years, almost thousands of years, Europeans in their interactions with Moors had to pay trade tariffs and pay booty and prize, or trade up their wives to get safe passage, or to get, alligator skin boots and stuff like that. Moving forward, the United States having unanimously appointed, not voted, appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation. Your Majesty's letter of August 17, 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government, so they shut down, is that what you're talking about, the CNU?
Government already exists.
And they shut it down. Remained unanswered has been delivered to me. I have also received the letters which your Imperial Majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli. When the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was done, realized that the Sultan of Morocco was the first one to put his sign and seal to it. The Beys of Tripoli and Bashars of Tripoli and Tunis weren't so, how should I put it?
They weren't supportive.
They weren't supportive at all.
They didn't trust them.
They didn't trust them at all because they already knew what was going down.
Yeah.
Period. So where was I? I have also received the letters to which your Imperial Majesty has been so kind to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship with them. See right there, you've already got a pattern. They give you false promises and thanks in place of actual value and land and gold and silver coinage. But anyway, we regret greatly the hostile disposition.
We greatly regret.
We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies toward this nation who have never injured them and is not to be removed on terms of our power to comply with.
We keep up with the taxes.
They couldn't keep up with the taxes. Period. Within our territories, there are no mines, whether of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and dissolution of
a long war. Way down the bottom here. Turn the page.
Yeah. Next. Long war have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce. They didn't know how to work the land. That's why they had to create a slave race out of us. That's why they had to separate the quote-unquote darker natives from the lighter natives. And then they went into Christian Black Code, said that Negroes and Indians couldn't dwell amongst each other because they what? Couldn't tell us apart. Moving forward. But our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, the ones we're going to enslave. And we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. The encouragement which your Majesty has been pleased generously to give our commerce with your dominions, right there. Whose land is it?
Exactly.
It ain't theirs.
See the obvious?
Complete opposite.
Now,
It's completely
keep
obvious.
in context, now understanding what the land is, distinguished from the corporation colony that has colonized the land, which is your incorporation papers there. Well, those who don't know the history think that that corporation is the country, which is actually Morocco. See why it's necessary for this information to be suppressed on their part. However, it is not unknown by scholars. You get the point? Now, point being made is, if these people can tell what Prophet Muhammad did and what Jesus did and what Moses did, what the Bible means, and what's going on in ancient Kemet, etc., and don't even understand what's going on in contemporary world, see why the rest of the world is disgusted with these people?
Common sense is the highest science known to man.
Continue, brothers, and analyze.
All right. The punctuality with which you have caused the treaty, that's a contract, with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor make a deep impression on the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your Imperial Majesty. When you check the story about Captain Proctor, he was a European who was doing some trade in the wrong area at the wrong time. He got snatched up by some pirates of the Caribbean, so to speak, Moors. Our Barbary pirates, the Barbary wars from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. That's in the Marine song. They're talking about the Moors. They're talking about the conquering of our lands. But let's finish this up. And confirm the respect for and attachment to your Imperial Majesty. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity of assuring your Majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your Majesty of the high sense which in common with the whole nation, I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your Majesty. May the Almighty bless your Imperial Majesty and our great and magnanimous friend with his constant guidance and protection. Signed, George Washington. So right there, we got a couple of things going on, right? First off, we recognize they're colonizers. Remember, they weren't recognized as a nation until they got this deal done. Internationally, they had no recognition. They're what we are today in our denationalized state, being stateless persons, because they were the criminals of their country. They were the rapists, the murderers, and the killers. They were the ones with the life sentences, okay? They had an offer to go on this great voyage across across the ocean, maybe to their peril, but it's better than sitting around in a jail cell, okay? So they hopped on the ships and they came over here in the droves, and they did it in a constant flow, right? And when they got here, they didn't know what to do. They were starving. And then we get the whole Thanksgiving story when we actually fed them ungrateful suckers and taught them how to work the land, right? Then you fast forward past the revolution, and they're trying to get their bearings straight. They need somebody to be their friend. They need a trading partner because they don't know how to work the land. The only people that they can deal with are the owners or the landlords, right? Realize that what Taj was telling me earlier, Lord is a designation for human beings. So when you're talking about lords, you're not talking about, God, quote unquote. You're talking about someone who is given authority to dispensate, who gets what on the land. Typically that would be the royal families or the Moors or the brutish Moors. If you're talking about Britain, or the lords. So whenever you're dealing with landlord tenant, right, you're the true landlord. Keep that in mind at all times whenever you're dealing with anybody in terms of commerce, because if I got gold and I got silver in my backyard, well, that's mine, right? Anything that you take from the land is just like you taking it from my backyard. So then if you turn around and tax me for my own stuff, what sense does that make for me to actually pay that tax without any qualification or question? It doesn't make any. Remember, common sense is the highest science known to man. So, when you're talking about Georgie and his statements, he tells you outright, our commerce, remember, it's just business with your dominions. We're just here to do business on your land. We're just in your backyard, we're gonna dig this up. And the original agreement was to pay us for it. That was why we had them paying tribute payments, but every time we snatched them up, we would take not only the payment that was owed to us, but we would take the women, the children, the gold, the silver spoons, and everything else. And we slaughtered them by the droves. So our karmic debt is what got us here, to a large degree. Because we were living high on the hog. We were able to do whatever we wanted. And because we were so ruthless with it, the rest of the nations of the earth had no care for us once we fell into our dead state.
Exactly.
And that's why to this very day, whenever they see us and they're on our land, they turn their nose up at us and they clutch their purses, because they just don't know, are we dealing with, the Pirates of the Caribbean Moors, or are we dealing with, the royal Moors, the nobles? And they can't tell until we open our mouth. But because we don't study, we don't qualify what we're saying, we sound like idiots or Calvins. All right? When you get to the etymology of idiot, you'll see what I'm talking about. But really, understand, this is your land, Moors. George Washington was appointed. He was not the first president. He was not elected like the Constitution requires. All right?
We have to put in context of the time period.
Okay.
Because we're actually over time right now, about 15 minutes.
All right, I'll just run through this right quick. To all persons to whom these presents, and this is the preamble, let me scroll up.
To the treaty, yep.
Yeah. This is the preamble to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1786, 1787. All right,
Obama mentions this treaty,
Article 11.
yes, of the Treaty of Tripoli, yes.
All right, and when you get to Article 11, you'll see why this isn't a Christian nation. To all persons to whom these presents shall come, or be made known, whereas the United States of America in Congress assembled by their commission, bearing the date, the 12th day of May, 1784, thought proper to constitute John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, their ministers plenipotentiary. All right? Just for right now, think of ministers plenipotentiary as agents, right? Because we're just doing business on somebody else's land. So we got to send an ambassador to go negotiate for us, or minister plenipotentiary. Giving to them, or a majority of them, full powers to confer, treat, and negotiate with the ambassador, minister, or commissioner of His Majesty the Emperor of Morocco concerning a treaty of amity and commerce, peace and business. We want peaceful business. If they're doing anything else, they're violating this treaty. The moment they put their hand on their gun, that's an assault. I'll move forward. Minister or commissioner of His Majesty the Emperor of Morocco concerning a treaty of amity and commerce to make and receive propositions for such treaty and to conclude and sign the same, transmitting to the United States in Congress assembled for their final ratification, and by one other commission bearing date the 11th day of March 1785, did further empower the said ministers plenipotentiary or majority of them by writing under the hands and seals to appoint such agent in the said business as they might think proper with authority under the directions and instruction of the said ministers to commence and prosecute the said negotiations and conferences for the said treaty, provided that the said treaty should be signed by ministers. And whereas we, the said John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, two of the said ministers plenipotentiary, the said Benjamin Franklin being absent, by writing under the hand and seal of the said John Adams at London, October 5th, 1785, and of the said Thomas Jefferson at Paris, October the 11th of the same year, did appoint Thomas Barclay, right there, another agent, right? Realize that whenever you hire an attorney, you're assigning another minister plenipotentiary to do your business for you. You're creating an agency relationship by your actions and your conduct, not just the signature, right? Thomas Barclay. Agent, straight up, in the business aforesaid, giving him the powers therein, which by the said commission, we were authorized to give, and the said Thomas Barclay, in pursuance thereof, both arranged articles for a treaty of amity and commerce. Now right there, he didn't arrange anything, okay? Keep that in mind. And when you look at when you go onto the Avalon website, which is Yale University Law School, okay, where you can get a good copy of this, and you go into Hunter Miller's notes, you will see where they talk about how the Moorish forms that we have did not allow for them to make any changes to this treaty. right? Realize that under the mailbox rule, when you have a contract and you send it, it's considered received at the date of sending, right? If it's considered sent and you're talking about a signed, sealed, and delivered contract, that means it's done.
Yeah, sealed.
It's sealed. Means it cannot be opened again. Unless someone of proper authority, comes in and makes that decision. Both arranged articles for a treaty of amity and commerce between the United States of America, Corporation, and His Majesty, the Emperor of Morocco, Empire, de jure, and sealed with his royal seal, being translated into the language of the said United States of America, together with the attestations thereto annexed, are in the following words to wit: in the name of Almighty God, this is a treaty of peace and friendship established between us, the Moors, and the United States of America, which is confirmed, and which we have ordered to be written in the book and sealed with our royal seal. At our court of Morocco in the 25th day of the blessed month of Shaban in the year 1200, trusting in God, it will remain permanent. So when the prophet says Moors enforce the Constitution,
He's talking it, yeah.
he's talking about treaty, peace, and friendship. Because on Article 6, there's a treaty clause that says all treaties before, during, and after shall be binding against the United States.
And it is the supreme law of the land.
And it's the supreme law of the land, meaning supreme meaning the highest, okay?
And the judges of every state was bound thereby.
The judges, magistrates, sheriffs, sheriffs, constables, parking administration, tow truck companies, McDonald's, Sears, okay?
Now look in the concept where our people not knowing that they're Moors or either denying it or actually abdicating their right and claim to the sovereign power or don't know that they have the sovereign power. And you also see the treachery of the sellouts of the black leaders who have this information and keep telling these people that they're black in order to disconnect them from their right of claim of this estate, which is the foundation of this whole thing. And the United States is an appendage, a political appendage attached to the Moorish Empire. And all these people keep acting like they don't know who the Moors are. But this is to show you that everybody knows. The only ones that don't know is us. Go ahead.
I was studying on Kabbalism, and I came across this word that said golem, and it said Frankenstein-type creature created from Jewish mysticism. Then I started walking around and became a Negro, black, cowardly. They're made, they're created by mysticism, lies. Judaic Christian society, that's what they call them. All
And they don't necessarily hide it, is that our people, again, by having misinformation as their foundation, don't know what they're even reading, or don't know that it even relates to them, And this is back to when he even went in the law book and even shows, and he can go even in ordinary dictionary, show anybody, even children, that they're Moors. But yet the fact that there is even a debate is indicative of the abandonment and the incompetence and the betrayals. But rather than people to look at that, they start debating opinions, which again makes them incompetent and automatically wards of the state, which continues the very problem that they think they're trying to overcome with all these infiltrated black organizations that won't daggone work, because they can't work, because the people are compromised. But anyway, because of time factor, go ahead and play out and
wrap it up.
Give us some dissertation. What you see in it? What is anybody seeing it? What becomes obvious? What becomes obvious?
Last article of the treaty, Article 25. This treaty shall continue in full force with the help of God for 50 years. We delivered this book into the hands of the before-mentioned Thomas Barclay on the first day of the blessed month of Ramadan in the year 1200. I certify that the annex is a true copy of the translation made by Isaac Cordoza Nunez, interpreter at Morocco, of the treaty between the Emperor of Morocco and the United States of America. All right? Time been up. Okay? time is up. The contract is void. So at this point, it's no longer a life estate, okay? It's in law understood to be a leasehold, right? So what happens when your lease goes out and you don't renew the lease? No. They give you an option to stay. You can go month to month. But it's at a higher rate, all right?
What's the 50 years about?
The 50 years is about the fact that we knew that it wasn't gonna hold, we knew they couldn't hold water.
And what you find when you examine it, if there was going to be any amendments to the treaty, it must be
Constitutional Convention.
presented in Constitutional Convention 4 years before the termination of that 50 years for it continue. And this is where you have the 1836, the only time it was modified thereafter. But also you must recognize when you understand the nature of the coup of 1861 with the Congress adjourning sine die, and then them setting up the secret coup to overcome this obligation by converting the United States Agreement Corporation of operating here, a nation in what is called the Union, into a private corporation. This is the secret of the converting of the Constitution for the United States of America into the Constitution of the United States of America and taking it as private articles, registering in France and overthrowing the government. This is what is happening today, and this is really, the knowledge of this is really the foundation and background of both the Clearfield Doctrine and the background as to why the BRICS nations today are enforcing the American Constitution and reinstituting Article 1, Section 10, and Article 6, which is really what is called the reset or the reinstitution of the Gold Clause, which is the enforcement of the American Constitution and the treaty. It's done by Russia, India,
South America.
yeah, South America, Russia,
Brazil.
China,
Brazil.
and then you have the Mint nations, which includes Mexico and many of the American states, and this is what's really going on in the political realm. And logically, if you don't know your real history, you don't even know it's still all about you. This is the danger of our people having been deceived. The whole world politics revolves around us, and we're pretty much, as a body, not all of us, but as a body, out of the loop.
And remember, there can be no corruption.
And it's a dangerous position to be in. And what they're planning to do and trying to do is kill us off before the transition is made.
So, off the top, do we have any questions? Or do we have any major observations? Because at this point, if it's not obvious who and what we are and where we are,
And why nobody's talking this.
and why nobody's talking about it, and why, Greece just went through what they went through, and why Indonesia's not taking any fiat notes anymore, is because this information and what we're doing right now is going all across the planet. And while our people are sitting here, sitting on our thumbs, wondering whether or not it's true, the rest of the world has accepted it, gotten through it,
Not
purged
only
it.
that, they knew it all anyway.
Oh yeah, and already knew it. And they've moved forward. And they come here, and they doing business on our land, and because the natives don't care, the natives don't know, anything, as long as you give them a 40 and a good beat, they have it. Like, seriously. We don't need a job, we just want a little fiat to get, a little messed up for the day, and so I don't have to think about my problems tomorrow. But they continue on perpetually. And our children, our offspring are suffering daily by the hour. And we're getting slaughtered in the streets as if it's nobody's business. But until we recognize what we have.
And they're really trying, gotta recognize, and this is back to even where, like you see a lot of the European freedmen's groups, and they're talking about sovereign citizen, which is an oxymoron. You understand? Because they are citizens of the corporation. And the corporation has been dissolved. And because they abridged the Constitution and treaty, they have no protections. Once you understand these things, you'll understand why Rothschilds, I think his grandson, Zuckerberg, owns Facebook. That's actually Rothschilds or the Rockefellers' grandson. and why his partner, when he went IPO, why he went to Switzerland and nationalized. See, when you know the real history, you understand the politics, contemporary and past. And until our people know their real history, you know, when they're thinking black and color, they're so far off the mark that they're just totally incompetent. They're not descendable. This is the danger of our people acting with arrogance with their fake spirituality and their fake metaphysical knowledge, etc., and sitting around talking black and color and don't know what the hell they're talking about. And the world is being transferred while they sit. The lords, not just in the heavens, but on the earth, are being, they're changing. The musical chairs have been pulled out. And they ain't caught on, they still playing black and talking with a sense of authority when they are declared incompetent and they're getting ready to get killed. And they don't understand that. Because this represents a change of the guard on the planet. And we're still in a banal juvenile state of mind, not understanding that we're the heirs to the world's largest estate, and they're going to try to kill us off. And we're sitting around talking about racism. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you need to claim your estate, because the issue that they're using to justify their continuance, etc. by mandate, is claiming that there's no descendable persons. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the issue is they're an administrative operation. They're not government. And then, of course, you find that out in the Clearfield Doctrine. And then with the coup that took place in 1861 to 1871, you understand why the lawyers for the Clearfield Company got pissed off, and even though that check was only 24 notes and 60 cents, that they weren't taking a hit. Because they know that these people is no different than somebody walking from behind McDonald's talking about, the government says, that's why you're giving this incorporation paper, so you can understand they're merely a private securities trafficking corporation. They're not a country. The sooner you get that through your head,
bet off you'll be.
And acknowledge your own country, which is Morocco, that's been under occupation, you've abandoned your estate. And it's hard to get those concepts in people's heads because, one, the information is given in such what you would call a casual setting. They underestimate its importance. They look at it as a belief system, and they're preoccupied with other information that's tributary, but not root. And until the foundation is fixed, anything else they build will fall down. Doesn't mean that other things aren't important, but that's where the statement comes in, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all other things will be added unto you, which means if they don't fix this foundation, everything else that they built is going to crumble. And the job of the dark priesthood is to keep them on that banal level by misinformation, lack of information, distorted information, and connotative linguistics that they think is unimportant. Now, again, and even as you analyze, as we was even talking before we even got, came in the journey, little subtleties like that I recognize that you recognized, even in your youth. And I'm pleased to and respectfully to give you props because I recognize that you've been studying seriously. Because you talk like you've been dealing with this for years, and there's a lot of adepts that can't deliver the way you deliver because their concepts aren't there. But I also say this is when we sharpen swords. And as you can see, it'll even sharpen more concepts of what you already know, and you recognize even more tools to use and tools that have not been used or opportunities for both defense and offensive establishment of right of claim, which must be made. They cannot be ignored. However, you know and I know that many people are not aware that they cannot afford not to make their claim because they don't even know to make the claim. Information's interesting, but until it really dawns on them what's really going on, they will have a tendency to miss cues. And missing cues is dangerous. And so this is, again, why like a lot of people looking at the wars, like in Crimea, etc., and Ukraine, all that stuff. They're looking at the United States in their mind as a country interfering with Russia, the pipelines to Syria, Iran, when they don't know the real deal is that these countries have dumped their T-bonds that's based in all of these security instruments of human trafficking, which guarantees their collapse. Because we haven't done what we were supposed to do for 102 years, because the birthright was brought back to us since 1913, and we failed to carry out our responsibility to enforce the Constitution, which includes the treaty, which supersedes it. And so even with that analysis, without even any deep thought, you can understand the social political dilemma that both the representatives of the United States Corporation Company, who have been imposturing as the nation, do you understand, and impersonating us. This is why they always impersonate Americans, it's because they're doing things in our name. Now you understand how they're buying and selling things in the straw and why it was even constructed. And anyone can put up their Social Security and see all around the world that these companies are transferring in that Sister Q Act of 1666, which is part of the doctrine of discovery. You know, go ahead.
I'm sorry, is there, do you have the site where you go in and put your?
All you gotta do is, go ahead, tell us.
It's gmei.com.
GMEI.
.org, my bad.
GME.
.org. If you Google it, it'll pop up and it'll have a little search bar up under it. GMEI. Yeah, I did it this week.
That's how you check your Social Security.
That's how you check to see the bonds and everything, all the fraud they've been doing on your social. Yeah, you just punch in your social with the dashes.
With the dashes.
With the dashes, and then you just hit search, and it's gonna tell you.
You say GM?
GMEI.org.
And when you get there, what you do?
You go to the search. It'll be the second tab. And then you punch in your social security number with all the dashes. And I recommend that everybody ASAP go there. That'll bring up all of the applications,
that's being made
transactions
in
being made
the estate
in the name
that
of the
they created for you under the transmitting utility, under the field marshal order of the 14th Amendment, which Drawley told these people in the divine warning that is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. Translation, he's telling you it's a fraud.
But go on there, print it out if you can, ASAP, before they change the rules again and put it on a whole nother system, because prior to this, I think years ago you could look up on Fidelity and find it. Now it's a lot more difficult. But this is a pretty sure thing. I did it this week.
If you put your social security
with the dashes.
It'll come about what they did to you.
Yeah.
It'll show you all the countries and all the companies
all
and
the countries and companies
and
that
companies.
are dealing in that straw.
With their addresses. So
the human trafficking.
You might want to put them on notice.
Every day.
Is it .org?
Yes, .org.
GM. You not put in www.
I mean you can.
But I'm just saying.
But if you just type in Google GMEI, it should pop up.
GMEI.
And then enter your social.
Yeah, under search.
You get it yet?
GMEI. I'm looking good, man.
Yeah, and it says
GMA portal.
Yep, .org.
Go right there. And then there should be a search bar there.
The second tab is the search.
And then you put your social security number in.
Yeah, you put your social with the dashes.
All
right.
I just want to ask for everybody to go, if you didn't leave a donation and you can, I would appreciate it, because I do like to